welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly mind-bending and just awe-inspiring Mahayana Buddhist text, the Inconceivable Sutra of the Tathāgata's wisdom. If you're a student of comparative religion, or honestly, just someone fascinated by massive, expansive cosmic philosophy, you are absolutely going to love this. This text pushes the very boundaries of how we conceptualize reality, divinity, and the whole nature of what an enlightened being actually is. We're going to break down its incredibly dense mystical concepts into crystal clear ideas.
Okay, let's dive into this. On the agenda today, translating a cosmic vision, the grand cosmic assembly, positioning the Mahayana path, analogies of ultimate reality, and finally, the 5 core beliefs. Section 1, translating a cosmic vision. So the text we're analyzing today was actually translated way back in the Tang dynasty, and this was just a massive undertaking, spearheaded by the Tripitaka master Shikshananda. He was a highly revered monk originally from the ancient kingdom of Khotan. Just think about the sheer human effort required here for a second. Shikshananda was traversing these huge cultural and linguistic barriers, working to capture concepts that literally defy ordinary human language, and bringing them all to the Chinese-speaking world. It's a monumental feat of historical scholarship, for sure. And fast forward to today, we still have access to this text, which is amazing, thanks to modern digital scholarship. This ancient Tang Dynasty translation has been meticulously preserved by the CBETA Foundation in their electronic Tripitaka collection. It beautifully bridges the gap between ancient manuscript translation and modern digital access. It's what allows scholars of comparative religion to study these profound words so seamlessly today. Section 2, the Grand Cosmic Assembly. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer, staggering mathematics involved. The text doesn't just say, a large crowd gathered to hear the Buddha speak. No, it specifically notes an assembly of 62 billion monks, accompanied by another 60 billion nuns. And remember, they're all described as having achieved profound spiritual realization. The sutra is deliberately using these totally incomprehensible numbers to break us out of our ordinary, limited worldview. But it's not just humans in attendance. The text lists this phenomenally diverse cosmic audience. We're talking heavenly beings like Devas and Brahma, alongside Nagas, which are dragon spirits, Yakshas, Asuras, mythic Garudas, celestial musicians known as Kinnaras, and even giant serpents called Mahorgas. By illustrating this infinite, multidimensional audience, the text is telling us that the Buddhist teachings have this universal, unimaginable reach. They're relevant to literally every layer of existence. Section 3, positioning the Mahayana path. So the text explicitly addresses the different spiritual vehicles or paths within Buddhism. It acknowledges the Shravaka and Pratyeka Buddha paths, which, as we know, traditionally focus on individual awakening and personal liberation from the cycle of rebirth. But it actively positions the unsurpassed Mahayana path as the ultimate, all-encompassing umbrella. The sutra explains that the Buddha can effortlessly manifest the specific teachings needed for someone on an individual path, while simultaneously radiating the universal, boundless Mahayana truth. Section 4, analogies of ultimate reality. Now you might be wondering, if the Buddha is this boundless, universal reality, how exactly does he interact with individual, flawed beings like us? Well, the sutra solves this using some beautiful, really poetic metaphors, starting with the clear crystal. Imagine placing a totally pure, transparent crystal onto a yellow cloth. It looks yellow, right? Move it to a blue cloth, it looks blue. The sutra uses this to explain the Buddha's nature. The Buddha takes on whatever form or teaching a specific being needs to see in order to be helped. But, and this is absolutely crucial, the Buddha makes no conscious differentiation. The crystal never decides, hey, I'm going to turn yellow now. It's simply its nature to reflect what's necessary. And this brilliantly illustrates our next metaphor, the great cloud. The text says, the Buddha's wisdom is like a massive cloud that just showers rain equally over the entire earth. A tiny blade of grass absorbs a little water. A massive redwood tree absorbs tons of water. They both grow according to their own capacities. But the rain cloud, it doesn't play favorites. It doesn't analyze the situation and say, oh, I'll give a little more to the tree. It simply provides equally, just as the Buddhist teachings shower equally upon all beings, totally regardless of their status. Finally, we have the analogy of the sun. When the sun rises, it completely destroys the darkness of the world. But the sun never forms the dualistic, conscious thought, I am going to destroy the darkness today. It destroys darkness effortlessly, purely by its very nature. And this is exactly how the text wants us to understand the Buddha's wisdom. It destroys our ignorance and our suffering not through effortful step-by-step thinking, but simply by radiating its true non-dualistic nature. Section 5. The 5 core beliefs. So the crucial point is, let's bring this profound philosophy back down to earth. How do you actually integrate this to gain spiritual merit? Well, the sutra lays out 5 core beliefs. First, believing that all phenomena or dharmas are ultimately unarising and unceasing. Second, believing what we literally just discussed, that the Buddha acts continuously but without effortful differentiation. Now, the third, fourth, and fifth completely reframes the historical life of the Buddha. The text asks you to believe that his past lives, his famous prophecy of future enlightenment from the ancient Buddha Dipankara, and even his earthly birth as a prince in the palace were all just displays. They were skillful means, kind of like an educational theatrical performance, essentially, because he had already been enlightened for countless cosmic eons.
This completely shifts the paradigm, doesn't it? It goes from looking at the Buddha as a human who achieved something to a cosmic eternal principle that demonstrates the path for us. So I want to leave you with this thought to chew on. How does understanding the Buddha as a pure, non-differentiating reality, like the crystal, the cloud, or the sun, fundamentally change your view of absolute truth? If the ultimate reality isn't picking and choosing, how does that change your own personal approach to learning, to life, and to your religious practice? It's a massive question. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.